Welcome to this episode of Distance Learning with the Bakersfield Symphony. Today we'll be taking a look at the movement called the Catacombs in Modes Mussorgsky's Pictures at an Exhibition. Before we get started, I want to give you fair warning that there will be some pictures of human skeletal remains in this video. There's nothing gory or violent or inappropriate, but if you think that's going to freak you out, you may want to skip this episode. Just be sure to look up the music on YouTube so you still have a chance to listen to the movement. If you're staying with me, let's start with the painting the music is based on. Without knowing anything except the title, The Catacombs, what do you think? The painting itself is kinda creepy. They're obviously in some sort of structure where the only light is the lantern the man is holding, and yes, that is a wall of human skulls. Victor Hartmann, the artist whose work we're looking at, actually lived in France for a number of years, and this painting depicts a real place, the Catacombs in Paris. This is a self-portrait of sorts, with Hartmann depicting himself visiting the catacombs. He would be one of the people wearing a top hat. The painting gives us a look at what visiting the catacombs would have been like in the 1800s, with the flickering light of a lantern. You can still visit them today, but everything is lit with electricity, which, in my opinion, makes it a little less eerie. As you can see, Hartmann's depiction of the Wall of Skulls was not an exaggeration. The catacombs were created when the cemeteries in Paris were so full that it was becoming hazardous to people's health. Which is super gross, so let's not think too hard about that. The solution city officials came up with was to move the buried bodies from the graveyards and rebury them in quarry tunnels that existed beneath the city's surface. Now, we're talking about moving somewhere between 6 and 7 million bodies. I really, really do not envy the people who had that job. However, thinking back to the wall of bones we saw earlier, it suddenly makes a lot more sense. Many of the graves were unmarked, and many of the bodies being moved were so old that bones were all that was left, so the people moving the bodies got a little creative with their use of these old bones. In any case, visiting the catacombs is a sobering experience, and Mussorgsky embodies the atmosphere of Hartmann's painting perfectly in his music. I'm going to go through and point out some things specifically to listen for in the music before we listen to the movement as a whole. The movement starts out with a series of chords, but there's not really a melody. There's no tune you could walk away humming to yourself. Mussorgsky is painting a picture of a feeling, and as it turns out, he doesn't need a melody to do that. Get something to write with, and I'm going to play some of this first section of the music for you. As you're listening, write down what mood or feeling you think the music is portraying. What did you think? I think it sounds foreboding, creepy, and sometimes even downright scary. There are a lot of sudden dynamic changes as well. Remember, dynamics are the different levels of volume in music. This section of the music changes suddenly from quite loud to very soft, to even softer, and then suddenly quite loud again. And it can often be a little alarming. I imagine this section of the music to be representing Hartmann descending into the depths of the catacombs. The next section of music actually has its own title, although it's still about the catacombs painting. The title Mussorgsky's given it is Cum mortuis in lingua mortua, which is Latin for with the dead in a dead language. I would argue that this section of music is representative of what the painting is actually showing, Hartmann and his companions walking through the catacombs. Before we listen to this section of the music, I want to point something out. If you've been following our video lessons, you may remember a lesson about a theme called the promenade. The promenade happens at the very beginning of the piece, as well as in between many of the different movements, and represents Mussorgsky walking through the exhibition of Hartmann's artwork. Just as a refresher, here's what the theme sounds like. Now, listen to the next section of the Catacombs music. Sound similar? Mussorgsky is using a variation of the promenade theme here. He's taken it and tweaked it so it still sounds like the promenade, but it's different than it was originally. It's now in a minor key, with some changed rhythms, and switching back and forth between high voices and low voices. This time, instead of representing Mussorgsky wandering through the exhibition hall, he's using it to represent Hartmann walking through the catacombs. Notice also that the music, while still eerie, doesn't sound quite as foreboding as the beginning of the movement, showing perhaps that the fear of descending into the catacombs is worse than actually being there. As Hartmann's journey through the catacombs continues, Mussorgsky's music changes even more. We already wrote down what emotions the music was portraying in the very beginning of the movement. Let's write down what Mussorgsky is showing us at the end of the movement. What did you think? I think the music sounded peaceful and serene, a far cry from what the descent into the catacombs sounded like. One interpretation is that the ending represents Hartmann emerging from the catacombs into the light of day once more. Another interpretation could be that Mussorgsky is expressing that the dead are resting in peace, and rather than being a place of fear and foreboding, the catacombs is a place of peaceful rest for those who have died in ages past. Let's listen to the whole movement. As you listen, you can come up with your own conclusion about what Mussorgsky is portraying with the peaceful ending he's written for this initially disquieting movement. I hope you enjoyed learning about the catacombs. I've got some follow-up questions and activities for you. 1. Hartman painted this picture as a self-portrait of himself visiting the catacombs. He probably chose to paint himself in this setting because he had such a strong memory of being there, or the visit had made an impact on him in some way. Think of a place you've visited that you have a very strong memory of, or that meant a lot to you in some way, and draw a self-portrait of yourself visiting that place. 2. Go back and listen to the movement again, and as you're listening, map out what instruments you hear as you listen. There are a wide variety of different instruments used at different times in this movement. Think about the different effect each instrument gives the music. 3. Do some research about the history of the catacombs in Paris. I gave you an overview in the video, but there's a lot more information out there. Write a paragraph summarizing what you find. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check back for our next video.